I was at my small observatory by the coast. It was a few months ago when everything started to change. The wind howled through the trees outside. I sat surrounded by charts and monitors. It was just me and the machines. I had lost my research grant, and I felt the pressure to find something big. That night, I scanned data from the James Webb Telescope. I first noticed the signal. It was odd and different. I thought it might be a glitch. I shrugged it off at first, but excitement gnawed at my insides. Days passed, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept returning to my monitors trying to chase what felt like hope. At night, I worked late, eyes glued to those screens. The wind rattled the windows, making the whole place feel alive. I wanted to believe I was just working too hard, but doubts crept in. One evening, the lights flickered. My heart raced. I thought it was just a power issue. But then I noticed reflections in my telescope's lens, odd shapes swirling. I wasn't sure if it was dirt or something worse. I tried to explain it to my colleagues. They laughed it off, saying I needed a break. But I felt something strange lurking. It felt like something, was watching me. Nights stretched longer, and with them came nightmares. I dreamed of standing before an empty void, just silence. In those dreams, I woke up drenched in sweat, heart pounding. Then the unease grew. I felt its weight on my shoulders. I stared at the screens, desperate for answers. One night, the power went out. I sat in darkness. The wind howled louder. Shadows danced surround me. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. I didn't know what was real anymore. I looked again at the data, but all I saw was that same strange signal. It was getting worse. I was losing my grip. One night I went outside. I wanted air, something to clear my mind. As I stepped onto the balcony, everything was still. No waves crashing below, just a thick, heavy silence. I felt drawn to the edge, as if something called to me from the dark. Then came the whisper. It echoed in my mind. I couldn't understand it, but the chill ran down my spine. I was scared. I thought about going back inside, but I couldn't move. I stood there staring into the abyss. I felt something cold wrap around me, tight. A shiver shot through my body. What is out there? I whispered to the night. The silence swallowed my words. I couldn't shake the feeling. What if the ring is watching? What if it's aware? As I turned to go back inside, a sudden thought hit me. What if it already knows? I hesitated, glanced back at the dark void. It felt wrong. I rushed inside, locking the door behind me, but I still felt its presence. And I couldn't help but wonder, was I really alone? I barely slept that night. The darkness felt thicker, pressing against my chest. I huddled in my chair, surrounded by flickering screens. I couldn't get that whisper out of my head. Had I crossed a line? Had I opened a door better left closed? The next morning I picked up my phone to call my colleague, Dr. Hayes. She was the one scientist I trusted with my fears. I paced in my small office. I needed her to listen. I dialed the number, anxiety prickling at the base of my skull. It rang several times before she picked up. Hello? Her voice sounded groggy. Dr. Hayes, it's me. What's wrong? She interrupted. You sound off. I need you to come to the observatory. I've found something. I held my breath, waiting for her reaction. There was a pause. What did you find? It's about the signal. I think it's about the signal? She cut in again. You're going to need to calm down. If it's just noise, I can't. No, it's not just noise. I felt a rush of frustration. I saw things in the telescope. The weight of my thoughts spilled out before I could grab them back. I think it's sentient. Sentient? She echoed, skepticism thick in her tone. Are you sure you're not just tired? Maybe a glitch? You've been pushing yourself, James. I struggled to find words. I could sense her doubt, but I needed her to see what I did. Just come, please. I need your help. She sighed. Fine. I'll be there in a few hours. After hanging up, I forced myself to look through the data again. I wanted to make sense of what looked like a message, but I couldn't focus. The whisper from the night echoed again, louder this time. I shook my head, trying to clear it. I had to concentrate. An hour later, I noticed something. A fluctuation in the signal that I hadn't seen before. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. I wrote it down, but my hands trembled. I felt a presence, creeping near, watching from the dark corners of my mind. Finally, I heard a car pull up outside. Relief flooded me as I glanced out the window and spotted Dr. Hayes stepping out. She walked toward the observatory, frowning as she readied herself for another lecture about stress and misinterpretation. "James," she called, waving. I opened the door, nervous energy buzzing inside me. "Thanks for coming." She followed me to my workstation, scanning the monitors. "So, show me what you've got." "That signal," I began, pointing to the screen. "It changes like it's trying to tell us something." Dr. Hayes leaned closer, squinting at the data. I could feel her skepticism melting away, replaced with curiosity. "Maybe," she murmured. And then, before I could elaborate, the room fell cold. The screens blinked out one by one, plunging us into darkness. "What the?" A loud crash echoed from the direction of the balcony. I felt my stomach drop. "Stay close," I whispered, pulling out my phone for light. We moved cautiously toward the source of the noise. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached for the door, knowing we were not alone. That's when I saw it, a shadow darting just outside. A figure, humanoid but too dark, not reflecting any light. It turned abruptly, and I froze. What was out there? Who or what was waiting in the silence? I stepped outside, my phone's light cutting through the darkness. The air felt electric, thick with something I couldn't name. I peered into the shadows, hoping to catch another glimpse of whatever had darted by. But the night was silent now, too quiet, pressing against my ears like water. "James?" Dr. Hayes called from behind me. Her voice trembled slightly, breaking the eerie stillness. "What are you doing out there?" I turned to her, feeling the weight of her concern. "I thought I saw something." I raised the phone, illuminating the balcony. "But it's gone now." We stood there for a moment, shivering in the cold. I could feel the tension in the air, thickening with each passing second. "We should check the data again," Dr. Hayes urged, her tone clipped. "There has to be something more." I nodded even though I felt a sickening knot in my stomach. I didn't want to go back inside. I wanted to run, to get as far away from this place as possible. But I couldn't abandon the work we'd done. That would mean giving up. Once inside, I scanned the monitors. The data flashed back to life, but it felt different. The fluctuations I had seen earlier were now distorted, mixed with jagged lines that made my skin crawl. It was as if the signal had shifted, no longer decipherable. "Look at this," I said, pointing at the chaos on the screen. "It's not just noise, it's a pattern, but it's like it's fighting against itself." Dr. Hayes leaned closer, her brow furrowed. "This doesn't make sense. The signal shouldn't be like this. It almost feels alive." "Exactly." I swallowed hard. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, closing in on me. What if it's aware of us? As the thought settled in my mind, a low hum reverberated through the observatory, vibrating the air. I glanced at Dr. Hayes, fear flickering in her eyes. "Did you hear that?" She nodded slowly, her expression shifting. "It's coming from the signal." The hum intensified. My chest tightened as an image flashed in my mind, a monstrous form existing just beyond the veil of our reality. I shook my head to dispel it, but the sound felt like something reaching out, pressing against the edges of my consciousness. "I can't stay here," I blurted. "This is too much." "Wait," she said, gripping my arm. "Let's just figure this out. We need to understand what we're dealing with." The lights flickered again, struggling against the impending darkness, and then, without warning, a jolt ran through the building. Something heavy hit the roof, sending a cascade of dust falling around us. The monitors sputtered and died, plunging us back into shadow. "James," Dr. Hayes shouted, "get down!" I hit the floor just as another crash reverberated from above. The ground trembled beneath us. This wasn't just a storm. It was as if something had taken notice of us. The silence that followed felt mocking, a lull before the storm. "That can't be good," I breathed, heart racing. But before she could respond, a figure appeared in the doorway, tall and impossibly dark, framed against the weak light spilling in from the hallway. The shape seemed to pulse, shifting as if it were made of the very shadows themselves. Everything felt like a waking nightmare. As it moved closer, I realized the truth. We might not be alone in the universe after all, and whatever was standing before us had watched as we stumbled toward a discovery we had no right to find. "James!" Dr. Hayes screamed. "Run!" But I couldn't move. I was frozen, captivated by the presence that promised answers and terror in equal measure. What was it? Why had it come? And would we survive to tell our tale? I blinked hard, trying to shake off the paralysis gripping my limbs. The figure in the doorway took a step forward, and I finally found my voice. "What do you want?" I shouted, though I wasn't sure if it could even understand me. Instead of answering, the shape changed. It elongated, reaching out with a dark appendage that seemed to stretch into the space between us. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing my dread. Dr. Hayes pulled me back, her grip tightening like a lifeline. "We need to go," she said urgently, dragging me toward a side door that led to the emergency exit. But I hesitated, torn between fear and a desperate need for answers. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the walls, and I could feel the air shift. It wasn't just a signal anymore. It was an entity, focused and intent on us, maybe on me. "James, no," Dr. Hayes insisted, her voice breaking through my daze. "If it's aware of us, we can't stay." That snapped me out of it. I turned to run, adrenaline kicking in. We dashed down a narrow hallway, the hum fading behind us, but I could still feel a weight pressing against my chest. Whatever that thing was, it didn't let go. We burst into the staircase, sending rattling echoes through the empty space. I glanced back, half expecting the figure to follow. "What was that?" I gasped, my breath coming in sharp bursts. "I don't know," Dr. Hayes replied, her face pale. "But I have a theory. The data, it acted as a beacon. It must have sensed us observing it." I stopped on the landing, the realization crashing over me. "You think it's a response? It came here because of us?" She nodded, eyes wide with fear. "We've attracted something, James, something beyond comprehension." Pure panic surged within me. What do we do now? We need to secure the main observatory and try to re-establish the signal. Maybe we can communicate with it, or at least understand what we're dealing with. I couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away. But what if it doesn't want to communicate? She pressed her lips together, her expression grave. Then we need to be ready for anything. As we reached the main floor, we caught our breaths. The observatory loomed ahead, shrouded in darkness as if it were waiting for us. "You take the left," I urged. "I'll check the right." Just as we split up, I heard the hum again. It was deeper now, resonating through the very ground. A sudden crash echoed from behind, shaking the walls and sending a shower of dust from the ceiling. "Dr. Hayes!" I yelled, spinning back. But she was gone. The fear sunk deep in my chest. Where could she have gone? Then a low, resonating laugh filled the air. It didn't sound human. It echoed, mixing with the hum and turning my blood cold. I realized then that whatever was here with us had another plan, one that went beyond just watching. "Dr. Hayes," I called, my voice trembling. But the only reply was the relentless hum, wrapping around me like a noose. I had to find her. I had to understand what was coming. That's when I saw it, a swirling shadow coalescing in front of me, something ancient and vast. I felt it pulling at my mind, whispering promises and threats, and suddenly, I understood. We were just the first step in a far more dangerous game. I staggered backward, the swirling shadow drawing nearer. My breath quickened as I attempted to process the sight before me. Was this what Dr. Hayes had predicted? My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape whatever this presence was. Yet, a morbid curiosity anchored me in place. The shadow shifted and twisted, its form undulating like smoke caught in a breeze. The hum intensified, resonating deep within me. I felt it was more than just sound. It was communication, an invitation, or perhaps a warning. With every pulse, it probed my thoughts, and I fought against the urge to engage. Dr. Hayes. The name felt feeble against the overwhelming presence. I had to push myself forward to find her. I turned from the shadow, glancing back toward the path we had come. Maybe I'd find her on the other side of the observatory. Each step I took felt drawn out, the shadows seeming to reach for me. The weight of that eerie silence was suffocating. I rushed past the dark displays and instruments that lined the walls, tools of study that now felt irrelevant in the face of what lay before us. As I neared the central console, I froze. A flash of color, a strange blue light, caught my eye. It flickered erratically and seemed to come from a panel where data displays were scrambling, lines of code cascading like a waterfall gone haywire. I approached cautiously, the light pulsing in synchronization with the hum. Curiosity flared. I reached out, the warmth radiating from the panel, calming my racing heart. I hesitated, biting my lip. What if this was part of its reach? But something deeper urged me on. I pressed a few buttons, and the screen exploded into chaotic images, cosmic formations, spinning orbs, and, for a fleeting instant, a glimpse of what looked like the same figure I'd seen moments before. A chill shot down my spine. This was a visual representation of whatever was observing us. Then it was gone, replaced by a message that sent terror cascading through me. Sight unseen, we watch. Before I could react, the lights in the room flickered wildly, and a gust of wind rushed through the observatory, slamming the door shut. Panic gripped me. I rushed to grab the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Dr. Hayes, I yelled again, desperation creeping into my voice. I looked back at the screen. The blue light flickered again, as if it were alive, waiting for me to make a move. Hesitation fought with resolve as I saw a new message form across the panel. The threshold is crossed. Suddenly the whole room plunged into darkness. The hum ceased, and I felt the emptiness close in around me. My heart raced. I was not alone anymore. I took a deep breath and steadied myself against the console, the weight of realization settling over me. If I didn't understand this presence, whatever my choices were, they would shape what happened next. With determined steps, I moved to find another way out. But then I heard a whisper, just above the sound of my pounding heart. James. It was more than just a voice. It was a melody, beckoning me with promises of knowledge and danger entwined together. James. The voice called again, drawing me further into the shadows. The urgency of finding Dr. Hayes tightened my chest, but the pull of the unseen presence fought back. I had to choose. Would I answer its call or continue my search? A sound shifted just behind me, and my breath caught. Whatever I decided, I knew I couldn't ignore the implications of that choice. Something else lurked. What waited in that darkness? The darkness enveloped me like a thick fog, every instinct screaming to flee. Yet the whisper of my name lingered in the air, almost tangible. I turned slowly, searching for the source. The shadows seemed to shift, coalescing into a shape. James! It echoed, and I felt my name resonate within me. Was it Dr. Hayes? I needed to find her, but the voice held me in place. I clenched my fists, fighting against the magnetic pull of the darkness. Dr. Hayes, where are you? My voice was barely a whisper against the void. Echoes danced around me, mocking my solitude. A new sound cut through the silence, a soft scraping, like something moving across the floor. I spun around, heart racing. Who's there? The light from the console flickered back to life, illuminating a figure just beyond the threshold of the darkness. My breath stilled. It was a silhouette, dark and shifting, with no clear form. Panic blossomed inside me. Was this the presence that had been watching us? James. The voice still echoing came from this figure now. I needed to move, to escape, but my limbs felt heavy, rooted to the ground. Then, a glint of silver caught my eye. I realized it wasn't just a figment of my imagination. On the floor beside me, lay a metallic object, a small ring. I recognized it instantly. It was from the equipment Dr. Hayes had been using to monitor the anomalies in space. Why was it here? I bent down to pick it up, and in that moment, the temperature in the room plummeted, a chilling wind rushing past me. The figure in the shadows seemed to expand, its boundaries blurring. The hum began again, a low, throbbing sound that pulsed with urgency. "Your journey has just begun," the figure whispered, the voice almost friendly yet filled with something I could not place. I felt a surge of clarity. Dr. Hayes had warned us about the implications of what we were encountering. Had we activated something? Was this an experiment gone wrong? "Stop!" I shouted, clenching the ring in my fist. "I'm not afraid of you." The shadows recoiled slightly as if my words had struck a chord. Maybe I could stem its power. I took a step forward, challenging the darkness. "I want to know what you are. What do you want from us?" "Knowledge, James," the voice responded, layered with echo. "You have breached the threshold. We await the answer." I felt a jolt of fear at that word. Breached. Did we unwittingly cross some unseen boundary? That was when the lights twisted and flickered again, revealing a web of glowing lines extending from the ring I held. It pulsed in resonance with the shadow before me. Before I could question further, something shifted behind me again. I turned sharply, every hair on my neck standing on end. The door was ajar, just slightly, but enough to see the hallway beyond. Heavy footsteps echoed outside. "James! Help!" The sound was familiar, filled with panic. It was Dr. Hayes. "Dr. Hayes!" I shouted, urgency clawing at my throat. I needed to reach her before whatever was in that darkness interrupted, before the shadow could pull me back. I dashed toward the door, my heart racing. But as I did, I felt the presence surge forward, the echoing voice grow louder. "Stay with us." The choice loomed, yet my instincts drove me toward the light. But would I be able to break free from what was watching? Or would I be swallowed by the unknown? I burst through the door, heart pounding as I stumbled into the hallway. The darkness clung to me as I fought against its hold. I couldn't let it drag me back. "James, over here!" The voice cut through the panic, and I turned, spotting Dr. Hayes at the end of the corridor. She was leaning against the wall, her face pale and drawn, shadows stretching across her features. I hurried toward her, desperation fueling my steps. "Dr. Hayes, what happened? Are you okay?" I don't know," she stammered, her eyes darting nervously to the shadows behind me. I was studying the equipment when something activated. I felt it pulling at me, like it wanted me to stay. I grasped her arm, relief flooding me. "We need to get out of here. Now." As we turned to retrace our steps, the air thickened. The buzzing hum intensified, resonating with a frequency that felt invasive. Something in the atmosphere shifted. A dread coiled in my stomach. "Do you feel that?" Dr. Hayes asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah. Something is not right." I glanced over my shoulder. The shadows from the lab seemed to stretch further, creeping toward us like tendrils grasping for prey. "James, we might have triggered something we can't control. We need to get to the central console. It's our only chance to shut it down." Nodding, I pulled her toward the stairs. Every step felt heavy, as if the shadows were pushing back against us. The metallic ring still pulsed in my pocket, a continuous reminder of whatever might be watching us. The footsteps outside grew louder. I paused. "Dr. Hayes, do you hear that?" "Yes, we have to hurry." With newfound urgency, I sprinted up the stairs, dodging the flickering lights above us. The hallway turned into a gauntlet of tension, the whispers and echoes threatening to drown us out. Then I spotted it, the central console, flickering and alive, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. But as we approached, a shadow detached itself from the wall, revealing a figure that sent a chill down my spine. It loomed, featureless, but imposing. "Stay with us, James." Dr. Hayes. I felt the grip of fear tighten around me. "Dr. Hayes, go. I'll hold it off." "No, we can't separate," she cried, her eyes wide with terror. But I was desperate. Just go. As she ran toward the console, I stood my ground, trying to block out the voice surging through the darkness. What do you want from me? I shouted at the figure. Knowledge, the figure responded, its voice layering like a symphony of echoes. You have entered the domain of the Watchers, and now you are part of the narrative. A realization struck me. This wasn't just an encounter. We had become players in a new game. That's when I noticed it, a faint glow behind the shadow figure. The ring began to vibrate in my pocket, responding to something beyond the shadows. James, Dr. Hayes called, her voice breaking through the confusion. I think I can send a signal. Before I could respond, the shadow lunged forward. I dove in front of Dr. Hayes just as the lights flickered violently. Everything went dark. In the silence that followed, I felt a presence around us, cold and suffocating. What now? I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden darkness. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The weight of the silence felt like a dense fog, wrapping around us. Moments stretched, then fractured as something in the darkness shifted. Dr. Hayes? I whispered, my voice trembling. Are you okay? I'm here, she replied, her voice wavering. But I can't see anything. I reached out, searching for her arm, my fingers brushing against her skin. The coldness crept into my bones. We need to find the console, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Can you feel the direction we were moving? Yes, She paused, and I could sense her fear. I think it was to the left. Okay, let's head that way. We crept forward, each step cautious. The air was thick, almost electric, and I could still feel the faint vibration of the ring in my pocket. It pulsed softly, guiding me like a beacon. Suddenly, a low growl echoed in the void. My stomach dropped. Did you hear that? Yes. What was that? I don't know, but we need to move. I pulled her along, the sound of our footsteps muffled against the floor. I started to remember the layout from before. We'd taken a sharp turn past some equipment. If we could just find the corridor again. Then a series of quick clicks broke the silence. My heart raced. It's getting closer, I hissed, pushing us faster. Just as we turned a corner, a dull light flickered back to life, illuminating the space around us. But it wasn't the console. It was a wall lined with screens, each flashing mysterious data and figures. I felt a sense of dread wash over me. James, this isn't the way. Dr. Hayes tugged at my arm, panic rising in her voice. Just a second. We need information, I said, trying to keep my focus. I started tapping on a screen. Lines of code scrolled down, barely making sense. Then I saw it, a mention of the ring alongside cryptic notes about a looming presence. That's it, I exclaimed, excitement mingling with fear. It's drawn to us. This is about the ring. Before I could read further, the growl returned, louder and more menacing. Shadows twisted around us, merging and intensifying. I felt a chill wash over my spine. We need to go. Now, Dr. Hayes shouted, her grip tightening on my arm. I yanked her toward the corridor, but the growl transformed into a roar, shaking the very walls. You're too late, the voice echoed, a cacophony of whispers weaving through the air. Run, I yelled, and we dashed down the corridor. My feet pounded against the ground, adrenaline coursing through me. But as we raced toward the exit, I glanced back. The screens were flickering violently now, the data morphing into chaotic symbols. It was like they were alive, warning us of something far worse than I could imagine. That's when I stumbled upon a sharp metal edge, losing my balance. I fell to my knees, startled, and in that moment, the vibrations from the ring intensified. James! Dr. Hayes shouted, her voice laced with desperation. It was as if the ring was reacting to the shadows, like they were interconnected. I finally understood. Whatever this presence was, it wanted something from us. And now, it was closer than ever. Then, everything went dark again. I gasped, feeling the oppressive darkness swallow me. I scrambled to my feet, the cold, hard floor sending shivers up my spine. I couldn't see Dr. Hayes, but I felt her presence just a breath away. Dr. Hayes, can you hear me? I called out, my voice housing more fear than I intended. Yes, I can hear you. Her voice trembled back. Where are we? I don't know. We just need to get out of here, I said. Let's keep moving. The air felt charged, heavy with something I couldn't name. The ring in my pocket throbbed again, stronger this time. I could almost feel it like a heartbeat, urging me on. Go right, Dr. Hayes said suddenly, her voice steadier than before. I nodded even though I knew she couldn't see me. We moved silently, not daring to speak more to avoid attracting whatever was lurking nearby. As we turned the corner, I spotted a faint glimmer ahead. Is that light? I asked. Yes. Maybe it's the exit. We stepped into the light, and I squinted against its brightness. It illuminated the corridor, revealing more screens and wires tangled like roots. My heart sank as I saw more wild, chaotic data flashing on them. But there was something else. 2 large figures stood at the far end. Their outlines shimmered, wrapped in the same darkness that had engulfed us moments ago. I froze, dread clawing at me. James? Dr. Hayes whispered, nudging me. What do you see? They're here, I whispered back, my throat dry. We need to hide. I pulled her back, trying to blend into the shadows. I could hear the low growl again, now a constant undercurrent, rumbling like a storm brewing. The figures moved closer, their form englobed with a strange energy. Then everything shook. The growl escalated to a deafening roar, and a single screen exploded, sending shards of glass and sparks flying. I ducked instinctively, pulling Dr. Hayes down with me. What the hell is happening? She cried, panic threading through her voice. I don't know, I yelled, feeling lost. My mind raced. The ring was our only hope, but I didn't understand its connection to this darkness. Something powerful was at play, and we needed to find answers. I felt the vibrations from the ring again, sharper, more urgent. I understood. Whatever it was sensing, it was revealing the presence of those figures slowly advancing toward us. James, look! Dr. Hayes gasped, pointing as one of the figures stepped into the light. It wasn't human, but a swirling mass of darkness with glowing eyes that pierced through the dimness. The other had a similar shape but was larger, more formidable. Get back, I hissed, tugging at her sleeve. But they could already see us. The darkness around them swirled, and the growl morphed into a chilling laugh. Your curiosity has led you here. Now you will pay the price. I felt a surge of dread, but amid the panic, something clicked in my mind. I had to confront this. The ring reacted again, pulling my attention back to the screens. It was connected to whatever I was looking at. Dr. Hayes, hold on to me, I shouted, and then everything went black again. I jolted awake, gasping as the oppressive darkness slipped away like a receding tide. I blinked, squinting against the sudden glare of light flooding the observatory. I lay sprawled on the floor, the room quiet and still, too quiet. The screens around me were dead, the scattered remains of our frantic escape replaced with an eerie calm. Dr. Hayes? I called out, the sound of my voice strange in the silence. Are you here? I pushed myself up, heart racing. The light felt unnatural, sharp. It flickered erratically, casting long shadows. Dr. Hayes! I yelled, dread pooling in my stomach. That's when I noticed something. The metallic ring still clutched tightly in my hand. A tremor ran through me at the memory of its warmth against my skin. Hadn't it responded to the darkness? I rubbed it between my fingers, taking comfort in its tangible presence, my last tether to understanding a world that had slipped into chaos. Then I saw her. Dr. Hayes huddled in the far corner of the observatory, visibly shaken, her expression one of disbelief. She looked up at me, her eyes wide and filled with a mix of relief and fear. James. She scrambled to her feet, rushing toward me, but her steps were cautious as if the air itself might threaten us. Are we safe? I stammered, glancing around at the stillness, expecting shadows to lurch back into life at any moment. I think so, she whispered, taking a deep breath, but I could sense her uncertainty. It's like we woke up or something. I grimaced, the shadows of our earlier encounters swirling in my mind. But what did we see? What was that thing? Her voice trembled as she recalled the figures. They said we would pay the price. I swallowed hard, an echo of their mocking laughter hanging in the air. For what? For reaching out? For looking too closely into the dark? Dr. Hayes hurried to the central console, which had fallen silent. She tapped at it desperately, but the screen remained blank. We need to talk about what we found, about that signal. There's something else at play here, something bigger than we can comprehend. That realization gripped me. The knowledge felt deep and overwhelming, like an echo pulled from the depths of space. Do you think the signal was a warning? Maybe, or a call, she suggested, brushing her fingers along the edges of the console. Whatever we discovered, we might have tapped into something beyond our understanding. As the weight of her words sunk in, I turned toward the empty door leading outside. What if it's still here, watching? The thought chilled me to the bone. The pull of the universe seemed to reverberate in my core, and I could almost hear it in the lingering hum. The same frequency that had once echoed through our work. The same one that still thrummed in the metallic ring I held. We can't stay here, I insisted. We need to leave now. This place feels wrong. But as we stepped toward the door, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned, catching sight of something darting just out of reach in the shadows. I hesitated, fear twisting in my gut. What is it? Dr. Hayes whispered, glancing back at me. It feels like it's watching us. Waiting. Before I could utter another word, the lights dimmed further, the room becoming a mere silhouette of shapes and shadows. The air shifted around us, vibrating with a familiar hum, a resonance I'd felt before. James, we need to go, Dr. Hayes urged again, panic edging her voice. But I stood rooted, gripped by a sudden realization. What if we can't escape this? It might be too late for us. The figure from before manifested again, a dark shape distilling the light. You have crossed a threshold, it intoned, its voice a low rumble that penetrated the silence. My thoughts raced. The entity claimed we were part of something larger now, a continuing story that went beyond mere observation. A chill ran down my spine. What do you want from us? I shouted. It shifted slightly, coiling in on itself. Knowledge. The price is understanding. Dr. Hayes stood in shock beside me. Understanding of what? The universe? Or something more? Of everything. The voice echoed softly. You bear the mark now. You have seen what lies beyond. The air crackled with energy, the darkness bending and shaping itself around us with a mind of its own. The ring pulsed in my hand, resonating with unspoken truths. I remembered the words from before. We await the answer. As the shadows loomed, a surge of defiance ignited within me. No more, I yelled, lifting the ring higher, feeling its warmth a stark contrast to the cold darkness encroaching around us. You can't have us. The entity paused, a flicker of hesitation rippling through its form. Had I struck a chord? Dr. Hayes took a step forward, emboldened. We might be part of your narrative, but we won't be mere players. For a heartbeat, time hung still. The hum intensified, shaking the walls, but amidst the chaos I felt something shift in the air. A promise of escape, a new understanding. We may not have all the answers, but we refuse to stand idle. Suddenly the presence retreated, and in the next breath the lights steadied, clarity flooding the room once more. Shadows relinquished their hold. Outside, the night returned to its natural stillness, the generous sound of waves crashing back to a peaceful rhythm. I glanced at Dr. Hayes. Did we do it? But as the air settled, the looming questions remained. The space felt different, charged, yet tethered to unresolved mysteries I could not articulate. I don't know, Dr. Hayes replied quietly, her gaze distant. But I believe we've touched something profound, something that may linger beyond us. We stepped outside the observatory, and as I looked up at the night sky, I realized the cosmos might hold answers that would forever elude us. We'd escaped, but the mark of our encounter remained. I turned to Dr. Hayes. Maybe it's not about knowing everything. Perhaps it's enough to ask the right questions. Or to realize there's so much more we don't understand, she suggested, glancing back toward the observatory, the faint glow within beckoning us to reconsider. And as we walked away into the darkness-eclipsed night, a part of me couldn't help but feel we were leaving behind more than just an experience. The unknown loomed like a forgotten threshold, daring us to return one day and find out just what it all meant.